Greetings, upstanders. Dr. O here, and in Trump's latest authoritarian move, he has had the language of the Smithsonian Museum of American History. He's had the language of his being impeached removed. This is reading from NPR. The National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C., has removed references to President Trump's two first term impeachments from an exhibit following a review. So now it only goes up to 2008 and only references Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton, and it talks about Watergate. This is what authoritarians do. They work to control the narrative in any way, shape, or form. And I was hearing a Democratic strategist talk about this morning, and she said, wow, we didn't really see that coming. But people who want to be dictators do. They look at every single way to control the narrative. You look what's happening with PBS. You look what's happening with taking over or attempted taking over of CBS. You look at what he's trying to do with Fox, ABC. Like, run down the list. And now the actual places where America's history is documented, they are working to actually rewrite the narrative and whitewash history. And some people say, well, yeah, but whatever, man. We know the insurrection happened. We were there. We saw it happen. We lived it in real time. Okay, but what about 20 years from now? What about 50 years from now? What about 60 years from now? What about people who may not be that familiar with the insurrection, who come here from other countries and they're walking through the museums and say, "Oh, these are the stories of America's impeachment." That's what Donald Trump wants. They want to rewrite the story about everything to make it look like he's some benevolent king or the people always love. And here's the thing: Donald Trump was never convicted. So the fact of the matter is that this actually could be used as a story for him of triumph. They try to take him down, and then blah 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 blah, and they lost, and he became a two-time president. He could use that, but no, he wants it all gone, all gone. And people need to be really mindful and paying attention of this, because where else is this happening? Is it what deal? Many of these history books, social studies books that people have used across the country come out of places in the South. They come out of places like Texas. And so, what conversations are being had with writers of future maybe textbooks that are being written right now that our kids are going to be studying? You know full well, in many of these states, they're going to be reading history books that don't talk about the insurrection as an insurrection, that talk about these guys as patriots, and will never say anything about Trump being impeached. And I'm sure PragerU is going to come up with some random cartoon celebrating this, as well as they partner with the Department of Education to work on cartoons and other stories for the 250th anniversary of the United States' birth. You have to pay attention to this. You have to pay attention. It's one thing to talk about just getting rid of our history, that we're not getting Black history, Indigenous people's history, Latino history, like run down the list that's being taken out of school. Story about prominent Jewish people or Jewish history, stories about prominent Muslims and Muslims history, like run down the list. It's bad enough that those things are being removed from school because we were never getting enough as it has been. But even the other stories relating particularly to white history are also being rewritten, removed, or told in new ways that benefit the dictator. This is what happens in dictatorships. This is what happens all across the world. Trump knows this playbook better than most because he loves being around them. Whether it's Putin, whether it's North Korea, like just run that Orban, like just run down the list. And he's running game on folks because people aren't paying attention. So my hope in sharing this latest example of it, and you can read the article below, this latest example of his latest dictatorial move. Oh, in addition to today, also the firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Did you peep that? Also happened today because he wants somebody who's going to give him the numbers that he wants. Also something that happens in dictatorships. So even though that's a story for another video, I'm giving you two two things today, just today, that happened that showcase this man's dictatorial tendencies. This is what he wants, and we can't let it happen. We got to fight. We got to speak up. We got to demand that the truth be written. Same thing they did with Jackie Robinson, taking him off, of the Department of Defense's website. But this is the president rewriting his own story. And some people are saying, well, maybe a staffer wanted to do it to please the president. But if that was the case, someone of integrity will say, no, leave it in there. So you have to look at this as coming from the top down. So once again, stories of impeachment removed from not just a random social media site, from the Smithsonian, the premier location for American history. What else is happening that we don't even know? I respect the journalists who unveiled this, But there's so much more going on that we also got to do the work to understand, because this is how dictators move. Democracy doesn't die in darkness, it dies in the light of day. And in this particular case, democracy isn't dying, it's being murdered right in front of our eyes. What are we going to do as the eyewitnesses? Let me know what you think. Peace.